There are so many people looking for information about the pre-approval process when getting a loan to buy a house. And there's just as many people that don't fully understand the devastating things that can happen even after you're pre-approved. And I'm not just saying that for clickbait or for dramatic purposes, but certain mistakes could literally cost you your dream home. So if you're in the process of getting a pre-approval, or even if you already have one, this compilation should include everything that you need to know about the pre-approval process. And it's going to teach you about all the mistakes that you should know about so that you can avoid them. After the video, if you've got specific questions or if you need help buying your next home, I'll leave a link to book a discovery call below.
When it comes to buying a house, not everybody has a bunch of cash lying around, and people are very often seeking financing to get a loan. In a market as crazy as this, you've got to have all your ducks in a row if you're ready to start putting in offers. And one of those first ducks is the pre-approval for your mortgage. This is simply a letter from a lending institution that tells the seller that you have done some of your homework ahead of time and that you are pre-approved to get a mortgage. What exactly does that mean? It means that you're going to provide some specific information to the bank, and based on that information, the bank is going to give you a budget for a house. So today we're going to talk about the specifics of how you go about getting that pre-approval. And the very first thing is finding a good local lender. I will say that again, a good local lender. Why is a local lender important? A local lender uses local appraisers. A local lender is somebody who you can actually drive to their office and knock on their door if you need to. Local lenders are here, they're available, and they know this market far better sometimes than some of the out-of-area lenders can. Having a local lender on your team can make all the difference in a transaction because they're the ones who are holding the keys, sometimes quite literally, to you getting to buy your house. In addition to finding your local lender, you want to make sure that when you're getting your pre-approval, you get all of your paperwork ready. Now, we're talking about your financial history, any kind of debt you've had, your job history, W-2s, income, your current credit score, all the information, and you want to kind of get that gathered together as best as you can, because the more accurate you are with that information, the more accurate your budget is going to be for your mortgage. Be honest, because quite frankly, they're going to find out anyway. They always do. I could tell you all kinds of stories about customers who a week before closing buy a car because they didn't think the lender would find out, customers who forgot about their bankruptcy 3 years ago, or the fact that in the last 2 years they had a 6-month gap of employment. It always comes out, and it's so much better for that to come out in the beginning so you can really figure out if it's the right time to buy a house and what your true budget is. Because once you're under contract on a house, it's heartbreaking for it to fall through because of something that could have been handled in the beginning. After you gather up all your financial information, and after you have a good hard look at yourself in the mirror and, tell yourself you're going to be super honest, you want to get an idea of what your monthly budget is going to be. A bank is going to give you a certain budget. It does not mean that you have to spend it. Most people budget based on their monthly expenses. So if you're currently renting a place and you pay $1,500 a month and you feel like you could maybe wiggle up to $1,700, it's really, really good information to have. Because if your bank approves you for $500,000, but you only want to spend $1,700 a month on a mortgage, you got to have that conversation with your lender so that you can make sure you know what your true top budget is. Because as exciting as it is to buy a house, you don't want to live for your mortgage. Pre-approvals are so important in today's real estate market. It shows sellers that you're serious and it saves you time. In a market such as this, where houses are going under contract the day that they hit the market, you don't want to have to waste a day or two trying to get your pre-approval letter. So making sure that you find a good local lender to work with, you gather up all your financial information, you make sure you're really super truly honest, and you get your monthly numbers in order are going to ensure that as you search for your dream home, it's a smooth road ahead. Now that you know how to get a pre-approval, let's talk a little bit about what the process is going to look like. Once you have figured out which lenders you're going to go with, the pre-approval process is super simple and very quick. It starts with a phone call. Whether you call one lender or 5, you're gonna have that same sort of process and conversation with each of them. The first thing they're gonna ask you are some just basic questions over the phone about your financial history, your job history, and then they're gonna send you an online application. It's a link that will come to your email, and once you go through that, it gets submitted to the lender where they can pull all the information that you've told them and get the process started. They are gonna pull your credit, so you do wanna make sure that you are ready to get into this market and that you're super honest on the application, because they're gonna find out anyway. Once the lender finishes with your application, they will email you a pre-approval letter. Make sure you send that to your realtor because they're going to need to stick that in with any offers that you submit. By now, you should have all the information you need to be able to get your pre-approval with ease. A local lender, or 2 or 3, that you can reach out to compare quotes and rates, all of your credit information, your debt history, your job history, as well as knowing what you'd like your monthly budget to be so that you can stay comfortable. All right, I'm diving into real talk today because what we're about to go over is completely preventable. So when you know, you do better, and I wanna make sure that when you're buying a house, you do better. Once you've got your pre-approval, which as a refresher is when a bank or lending institution gives you a letter telling you what type of loan and what your budget is. That is based on your debt, your credit, your job history, your income. So if you go around and start changing things, they're gonna pull that same report right before closing, and if any of it's changed, I hope you can renew your lease. I said I'd dive right in, so I'm gonna dive right in. Number 1, do not open or close any credit cards. By inquiring to get a new card or potentially closing a credit card, you're changing your debt to credit ratio, which is gonna be a real problem when the lender pulls that again just a few days before closing. So I know it's very tempting to wanna save 10% at Target, but wait until after you have the keys, because if you open that card now, you may not be opening your front door later. 2, while we're on the subject of credit cards, let's talk about credit card balances. Don't max out your credit cards. You really want to keep things relatively the same from when you originally got your pre-approval. So if you've got a credit card that has a $15,000 limit, and when they gave you your pre-approval, there was only $1,000 on it, and then the day before closing, they see $14,000 on it, it's not only going to raise my eyebrows, it's going to raise the lenders, and it could be a problem. So keep your balances paid and make sure they're paid on time. Number 3, do not change jobs. If Karen at the water cooler is a total psycho, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to deal with her for at least 30 to 45 more days. Because generally when it comes to loans, you've gotta have at least a 2-year job history. So if you quit your job, the biggest thing to remember is even if they've done your pre-approval, they're gonna confirm it again right before closing. So do not quit your job until everything is finished. And then you can tell Karen to go pound sand. Jumping into number 4, avoid any large deposits into your account that are non-payroll. So if you have a great job and you make bank, well, congratulations. But if something happens, for example, you get an inheritance from a relative or somebody's gonna gift you some money, talk to your lender before that lump sum hits your account, because that's gonna be a major red flag to lending institutions. So you wanna make sure that you're depositing it the correct way, or if it's gonna be a problem, you'll deposit it after the house is closed. Last and certainly not least is number 5. And this one comes with a story that will haunt your dreams. No major purchases. And that includes, but is not limited to, cars, boats, RVs, basically any major purchase that pops up before the house closes is going to make your loan approval disappear faster than flat screens on Black Friday. Let me tell you a little story. This story was circulating around my office when I first started in real estate, and I've never forgotten it, and I hope you won't either. Picture this, closing day. Big table, sellers, buyers, seller's agent, buyer's agent, everybody's super excited. Well, the lender walks in, has a terrible look on her face and says, "Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, did you just get some new furniture for your house?" And then the buyers are all excited and they say, yeah, we went to a furniture store and got an entire house worth of furniture. All the beds and dressers, everything's gonna be delivered tomorrow. And then that terrible look on the lender's face gets even worse because she says, did you open a credit card to get that furniture? And the buyer is still not knowing what the heck is going on, are saying, yeah, they offered 0% financing, so we're gonna have like 5 years to pay it off, and we're gonna have the entire house furnished. It's gonna look so great. And the lender just looks even worse, if that was possible, because she says, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I can't give you your loan. By opening that credit card and maxing it out, you changed your debt to credit ratio, so I'm so sorry, but you no longer are approved for this loan. And can you imagine having a giant delivery truck bringing you a house worth of furniture and you've got no house to put it in? I'm telling you this story because it's memorable and because I never want something like that to happen to buyers again because they didn't know. Because when you know, you do better. And when you're buying a house, I want closing day to be a really happy day for you. So remember, don't open and close credit cards. Don't max out your credit cards. If you're gonna change jobs, you're gonna have to wait until after closing, no matter how obnoxious Karen gets. If you've got a big deposit coming in that's not payroll, clear it with your lender first, and no major purchases because you've made it this far, so make sure you can finish it and have a great home to move into. You can do all the furniture shopping after. I'm back with 5 more things you should never do when seeking financing to buy a house. Job history, credit history, debt, it all matters when you're trying to buy a house. And what you don't know can hurt you. When you get pre-approved for a loan, the lender has taken a financial snapshot of your life, your job, your credit, your debt, your monthly expenses. Once you are pre-approved, it is your job to keep that financial snapshot the same all the way to closing. Don't quit working. Don't open or close credit cards. These are some of the main pitfalls people discuss. But what about the things you may not think about? It's my job to make sure that you think about these things because I want you to succeed in buying a home. And if you do too, here's what you need to know. Co-signing. Do not do it. Perhaps you have a friend or a family member who's in need. But if you take on that responsibility, I hope you can be roommates because you're probably not getting your loan. Be mindful of your savings. Do not drain your savings before closing. If you were pre-approved for this loan with, say, $40,000 in savings, when the lender asks to see your final bank statement right before closing, and they will, they better see the same amount, if not more, in savings. If that money suddenly disappeared, that's a huge red flag to a lender because it changes the financial snapshot they had previously. Remember, your job is to protect that financial snapshot and not change it. Because those savings are what lenders often refer to as reserves. If you have a nice cushion in your savings account, it means to the bank that even if you fall on hard times, you can still continue to make your mortgage payment. Don't change your marital status, or if you have plans to, let your lender know before you do anything. If you get married, your spouse is legally required to sign certain documentation for your loan. Be sure to keep your lender in the loop so they can advise you on the proper timeline to make these changes. And this is a big one. Do not pay off collections or charge-offs without talking to your lender first. It seems like you would want to pay off certain debts and collections, but remember, financial snapshot. If paying off that collector ends up dwindling your savings, it could do more harm than good. Are you sensing a theme yet? That theme is communication. Your lender needs to know everything, which brings me to tip number 5. Do not lie to your lender, even through omission. They will find out. Bankruptcy 5 years ago, they're gonna find it. Car repossessed in 2017, they're gonna find out. Opened up a new card at Rooms to Go to get a house full of furniture, you're gonna get busted. Quit your job the week of closing, They have to verify employment right at the very end, and they will know. Since 2008, lending standards have gotten way more strict in an effort to protect borrowers and make sure they actually can afford the loan. While it can seem intrusive, it really is for the good of the buyer and the overall economy. Leading up to 2008, getting a loan was much easier, but we all now know that led people into terrible situations. People who would never be able to afford a certain monthly payment were given loans anyway, and it decimated our economy. When you know better, you do better. I'm Lindsey Johnson, your resource for all things real estate. See you next time.